so let's take a deeper look at some of the things that have happened. Joining us from London, in the United Kingdom, is Yinka Oyeniji, is a public affairs analyst, foreign affairs specialist at this point. Yinka, thanks for your time. Welcome to the program.
Morning.
Now, the biggest thing, so to speak, two things really. The Ukraine has agreed to peace talks without conditions. That's supposed to take place today. But the president of the Ukraine has said he doesn't expect to get much out of those talks. So if you don't expect to get much, why go for them at all?
Well, so for me, I think that the president has now proven to be strategic in his responses to the invasion by Russia. Russia started this a little over 3 weeks ago, amassing troops at the borders and all of that. And then even at that, the president of Ukraine was still saying to the rest of the world that he didn't think that there was any cause for alarm at that point. And some of us thought that that was a feeble response to onslaught that was going to happen anyway. But what we have seen in the past few days shows tactical preparation against the invasion of Ukraine by Russia, because even Russia has suffered quite a number of casualties. We're talking in excess of about 4,000 troops have been lost by the Russian army. So for him to say again that we will come to the table for discussions, even though we don't think anything will come out of it, and he's still resisting Russia very boldly, shows that he's been tactical. I saw on your own news that the curfew in Kiev has now been lifted for just a number of hours for relief materials. So I think that this president is showing some mettle afterward, and he's showing some wisdom. He's filed already an action at The Hague to say that Russia has broken international laws. So he is saying, and I just watched also that you said this is between the president of Russia, Putin, and the people of Ukraine. So he's clearly identifying who the enemy is, which is Putin by himself. He is not leaving any stone unturned to say we did the best we can before this escalates to full-blown war. And I think that he's been tactical in dealing with this invasion in the last few hours. And that has also attracted a lot of support all over the world. Donations have been made from the United Kingdom. About 46 million pounds have been raised for the Ukrainian army. And then all over the EU nations, even NATO countries, are donating military hardware to Ukrainian soldiers. We are all proud of what that president is doing. That's my opinion. So even if he says he doesn't think anything will come out of that, knowing the devastation that Ukraine has experienced in the last few hours, he's still saying we are not shutting the door entirely to this peace.
Now, let me ask you this. You talk about the help that has come, but the Russians seem to also be playing a strategic game at this point. In order to prevent any kind of actual physical boots on the ground to assist the Ukraine, Vladimir Putin has put his nuclear deterrence forces on high alert. In other words, preparing them to use nuclear weapons if need be at this point. So would that scare off anyone who had prior to now been thinking that maybe it was time to step in physically and assist the Ukraine?
Well, definitely not. It's a question of who blinks first. What Russia thought it was going to do was to oppress, was to harass the Ukrainian president to surrendering within 48 hours. Russia is losing loads of money for each day of this invasion. And yet, the city, Russia has not come near the capital city of Kyiv yet. Not at all. So saying that you're putting nuclear weapons on alert, it's been done before in history. It's been done in Cuba in the 50s. And Kennedy, as president of the United States, did not bat an eyelid. So it's being done today to say we put our nukes on alert does not faz anybody. The worst thing, take note of something. Nobody has given or done any retaliatory measure to Russia as of today. Russia is not being bombed. But Russia will pay for all of these things that he has done. He's already paying. So it's about who blinks first. Germany, there are some good positives to take out of this. The German government has voted loads of monies within the last about 24 hours to increase its own competence with respect to military. So everybody knows this is wake-up call, but Russia isn't going to deploy any nukes. It's further to harass, and you can see tacitly, Belarus is already showing support for Russia. That shows there's something wrong with this invasion plan. Russia needs help as much as Ukraine needs help.
A number of other countries have seen what is going on in the Ukraine vis-a-vis Russia as a wake-up call, and you mentioned Germany and all of that. But I want to ask you at this point, drawing back from the brink, it does seem as if everyone wants Russia to withdraw from the Ukraine. But that is unlikely to happen if there's no way they can present the withdrawal as a win. So this is a situation where everybody has to leave the table feeling that they got something. Is that something that you still think can happen even at this stage?
It's definitely a possibility. It just made it more interesting. In all of the conversations I've been seeing or having, nobody has gone this route, and you made it interesting. That is where we are going to end up. Okay, note what the problems are. Russia has its own apologists, or those who sway to its side in this crisis, or in this war, in this invasion that has broken out. Russia did not start to work on this war today. It started by annexing Crimea in 2014. What Russia is saying is to consolidate its own interests along those borders, and saying that if you decide to join NATO, then you will be a threat to our own country. Everybody understands that. What Russia cannot do is to deprive a sovereign nation of membership of any organization that can improve its status within the rest of the world. So what will happen is that Ukraine will slow down its own ascension or association into becoming a member of NATO, and that is good enough for Russia for now. What will happen is that Russia would not recover from this dastardly act in the next 5 to 10 years. Remember that Putin is president until 2036 in Russia, if nothing untoward happens before then. So he's going to try again, but he's gotten to his wit's end, and there's no doubt about that. Ukraine would not, admittedly, not publicly, not unequivocally assume membership of NATO, but it's going to improve its military, it's going to seek heavy damages against Russia, and we can have some calm along those corridors for some time to come. So the sanctions will remain for quite some time. Ukraine will be rebuilt. There will be reconciliation efforts going on, but it won't mean that we would escalate into a full-blown war. This is the worst that can happen. The nukes will not be detonated, but there will be a reorganization along the borders of Belarus, of Finland, of Sweden, the countries along those corridors, and from with respect to Ukraine itself. No full-blown war other than what we have right now, and then Russia definitely will sit at the table. What I am waiting to see is who will broker such efforts.
Well, that was going to be my question. Who do you think is powerful enough to have the leverage on both sides, and who the West, and in this case, I'm talking about the United States and others, will respect? And the name that comes to mind is not exactly the one, for me, is not exactly the one that everybody might be thinking of, and that is China. Because China has maintained some kind of silence in all of this, and some have described that silence as ominous. Others have said it's strategic. What do you think?
Well, I say to you that, well, you looked in the place, the natural suspect. I'll tell you that the United Kingdom holds all cases.
Why do you think so?
Has already, yes, definitely. Definitely. That's why we raise so much money to support Ukraine as it is right now. Well, UK is a significant party to what is happening, because it can rally those in the EU. It can call on Germany, it can call on France and say we need to try to preserve some sanctity here because of the kind of precedent, or because of the manner of presidency we have in the United States at the moment. We won't see a lot of interference beyond supporting Ukraine or Ukrainian president with the logistics of defense at this time, which US has done already. It has sent ammunition, it's supporting raising funds and all of that for Ukraine. But Boris Johnson has come up leading United Kingdom to say there has to be a stop to this. And you can see, even though the United Kingdom has exited the EU, once Boris Johnson speaks, everybody else in the EU just lines up. Boris Johnson had spoken since Thursday, Friday last week, and said he condemned Putin in no small terms about what he's doing. And immediately spoke the rest of the EU, saw in UK an ally to be able to put a stop to what is happening there. So I don't think China has a lot of problems with respect to trade laws already, trade disputes between China and United States, and it is in China's own interest to stay supposedly aloof for the few days to come. Eventually, you will see China say, well, I also think that we've had enough of what is happening, but China would not lead that charge at this time. It will allow United Kingdom to try to broker peace along with the EU, and then China will try to ameliorate already. And you see from last week that China has lifted the ban on importation of wheat from Russia into that country itself. So providing some lifeline to Russia. It will not come out publicly to support Russia in what is happening, but it will not also fold its arms to welcome Russia after this invasion ceases, is my opinion.
All right, then. Thank you very much, Yinka Oyeniji. A lot to chew there. Thank you very much for your thoughts on this on the program today. It's been our pleasure having you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Akiri.